Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's time again for another episode of Cos-Talk. This week we have Eric from Corgi Cosplay and Creations. What's going on, Eric?
Just excited to do your show tonight. So
That's
that's
what I
what's
like
going
to
on.
hear. That's what I like to hear. I'm actually really glad that I've been able to do this and get a couple of you guys on here. I've told Tom this, and I'm gonna tell you this. Like everyone that I've had on, I've looked up to at some point. So it's kind of really cool. Like your Sergeant Calhoun, like that's. I have a heart for the gender swap cosplays. So when it comes to something like that, where it's not something that you see often, it's kind of interesting to me, and I really love it. Um, and that seems to be something you kind of go for lately because you've been doing a lot of them, eh?
Yeah. It, the thing is I never set out to be like the dude that does gender swap cosplays. It just kind of happened. So,
But you do them
it's
so
so
well, and
so
that's
so I, it makes me smile and I laugh because I guess I'm sort of getting known for that, and it's not really anything I at all decided I wanted to be known for, but it's fine being known for it too.
yeah.
So.
But at the same time, it's not even just you that you're doing with it as well. You're getting the whole family involved now, which is another cool thing. Because like you just did at ECCC, you did the whole family for Mad Max gender swaps.
Yeah, yeah, we sure did. And that literally started as a joke. We all love the movie a lot, and my I have two teenage daughters. Well, one's not quite a teenager anymore, but they're 19 and 16.
Okay.
And they've been cosplaying. They're like cosplay veterans at this point in their lives. They've been doing it for about 5 years, I guess. And I only recently, like the past couple of years, started doing costumes for myself. It was always for my daughters to begin with, and this year, last year I did a duo with my youngest daughter, is Yzma and Kronk, and that went over really well.
That's
And we were
actually how
talking
I
about
found you. That was actually how I found you a long time ago. Was that it was hilarious. As soon as I saw the crunk, I was like, "Pull the lever!" Just
yeah, that costume, it's so much fun to do. People love that character. We totally underestimated the response to those costumes the first time we wore them, and I was just bombarded all day long and had so much fun. Uh, but the Mad Max thing was because we've all been kind of doing cosplay in different stages, right?
yeah.
And even though they had done it for 5 years or longer, and my wife, I got into it like 2 years ago with them, and then my wife did her first costume like last year, and so we're all kind of like cosplayers now, the whole family, and not just the kids. And so we were like, we need to do a group together because we've never done a group before, And just one day we were just messing around talking about different costumes and stuff, and I just looked at my daughter because my youngest Emily, she's 16, but she's only 5 feet tall. She's kind of tiny for her age, and and that's the size she's going to be for the rest of her life, and she knows it, and we have fun with that. And I was just like, it would be really funny if you were Immortan Joe, and I just thought that because the guy that plays him. He's like 6'4", and he's like twice as wide as me. I'm a fairly good sized guy, so, and I just had this like thought of a mini Immortan Joe would just be kind of funny, right?
Yeah, the
And
juxtaposition of it would be, and it did translate really well that way too. It was hilarious, like the
well, thank
size.
you. I appreciate that. And so as soon as I said that, they were so because they just loved the movie so much, and even a couple months later, I was trying to get them. Let's do this. Let's do. They're like, no, we're doing Mad Max. That's it. No questions asked. And then they're like, you're gonna be Furiosa, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Why not?
So
If you guys
yeah,
at home want to take a look at that, it's actually the banner poster right here on the screen for Corgi Cosplay and Creations. Go check out Eric's work on there. There's some pretty cool stuff. You can go back to seeing even probably the Crunk and Yzma on there. I've seen tons of your work on there. It's pretty interesting to go check out.
yeah, I don't have the Mad Max stuff up yet, but the best place to look at our past stuff is my website, which is coregeek.net, and the very home page is just the gallery, so you automatically go to all my past builds.
Yeah.
I've been a little lazy and I haven't added the new stuff yet, so
Uh,
websites are too much.
I hear you on that. Mine right now currently still only has one or two images on it, and that's about it because I'm building in the background as I go, and I'm just, I'm more concentrated on building things rather than building websites. And
Yeah, I am the same way. And usually, what happens is we do a big build, and then I wait a couple months, and then I finally update it. So my most current stuff is usually Facebook and Instagram because it's so much easier to just post something there, and then instead of building a whole web page and stuff. So.
I hear you. Like when everything's at your thumbs and it's just super fast and easy to do, especially when you're at a convention, you snap a cool photo with your phone and then you're like, okay, I'm just going to post that right to Instagram, make a post, do this, share it, done. And it's like,
yeah, exactly. That part of modern cell phones and stuff makes it very nice, very easy. So.
Very scary at the same time because I ended up for some reason my network went down like yesterday, and I was in the middle of doing all this stuff and everything. I'm like, okay, and then my network just turned off for like 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, I'm on the go. What am I gonna do now? And then it turned back on. I was like, okay, catch up. But
good, we're ready to go.
It looks like we have a couple people in the chat now. Hey, Nimi, how's it going? He said he was going to pop in again today, so hopefully we get a couple more people going, get some conversation going, get some questions. This is still episode 4. I've actually been really surprised with the turnout so far. Bill and Britt have been really gracious in hosting and sharing the stuff about the show as well. Evil Ted Smith's joined in a couple times, so that's really cool. I'm hoping, actually, I'm in talks to see if I could get Ted on the show next week. I'm hoping.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Great.
I want to pick his brain about a couple of things, but also more so kind of just hear stories. One of my favorite movies growing up was The Guyver. So it was one of those things, like, I was like, I want to make stuff like that one day. And talking to the guy that did do stuff like that, it's kind of cool.
Well, yeah, and he's the man.
Yeah.
That was his bread and butter for
a
really long time. So yeah, Ted's great. I haven't met him in person. We've chatted a lot online and stuff, and I definitely have a mutual respect for each other. And yeah, I'd love to meet him in person. So
one person that I know you've met in person numerous times and has seemed to have been meeting everybody this like past week or two has actually been Bill. I actually want to see if I can get him on the show one time, just because, put the shoe on the other foot kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And that's funny. I've been in the chat for Prop Live for quite a long time. If I'm not in the chat, I'm at least still watching, doing other things, and it'd be kind of interesting to go from being a Prop Tart to having him on a Prop Tart show. A little bit of difference.
Turn the screw a little bit.
Yeah.
And Bill's great. He's good at interviewing, and he's good at being interviewed too. So he definitely has skills beyond just making cool stuff and writing books and things. I mean, I've been down to his shop several times, and and I've been on his show several times too. And one thing that I'm always impressed by when I'm on his show is how seamlessly he can kind of do like 20 things at once.
I know.
It's like really it's impressive. It really is. He's a great host. He does a really good job with that. So because you don't realize all the stuff that he's doing all at the same time to host the show and make sure it goes well and there's not a lot of lag. And
that's the thing that I was thinking of earlier today too. I was like, you know what? I wish I had a Brit. I wish I had somebody to also help moderate stuff and in the chat as well. Because like trying to handle that both, sometimes it can be a bit much. Even switching between screens right now, showing your social media, showing this, showing that, it can be quite a bit. It's like I'm getting used to it. And I mean, Bill's done it over 100 and some odd times now, so it's one of those things that I'm hoping I get more used to it as I go as well.
I'm sure you will. It's like it's an acquired skill, right? Just like all the other skills that we possess and that we grow. It's like the more you do it, the better you get at it.
And exactly, and I'm actually just kind of noticing it now. Even it's kind of funny because I I think I feel a little bit more comfortable in this episode already. I'm kind of getting used to it a little bit more, getting out there more, and that was kind of my thing for this show in the first place. Was I'm gonna start going to conventions again soon. I'm gonna start going to the bigger conventions, and I want to meet you guys. I want to hang out and stuff like that with people that I've either made stuff for or are loving the things I'm making. I want to meet these people, but I don't get out there enough, and that's one thing I want to get used to that more. So that's kind of my hidden agenda behind doing the show is talking to people more, getting out there, and just kind of being like, "Hey, everyone, I'm Mike."
No, yeah, and that's cool too because you can't always make it to all the cons and stuff, and you get to meet a lot more people through the internet than you can at cons anyway. Like for me, I'm mostly kind of stuck to more local cons
Yeah.
because of my family and and my day job and there's just a lot of things and I can't really travel across the country to meet all these people. So having that kind of internet network of prop builders and cosplayers and you know what the thing is everybody has just been so gracious and nice and in the kind of 3 years that I've started to really dive into that side of the cosplay community and I really appreciate people like you and people like Bill and Ted and everybody's just so helpful and that really makes such a big difference in the community and people that are willing to do shows like yours or any of it, whether it's YouTube videos or even just streaming your stuff on Twitch, which I've started to do just a little bit. I want to do more of, but I really need a new computer before I can do it heavily.
Yeah, it's
that,
demanding.
Just having all of that, just having all of that that support there, it's great. So, and I'm glad you're doing this show because I kind of thought about doing a similar type thing for a while, but I just don't have time when it comes down to it. I can barely put up a new YouTube video like once every 3 months. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we talked about in the last episode too. Was a lot of people don't understand that an hour-long show like this isn't really an hour long. I go through the graphics. I try to email guests, do all this other stuff. Sometimes there's editing involved. Everything you see around me right now and around Eric, it took me time to make this stuff. It takes time and effort, and it's not just an hour-long video or a 10-minute YouTube video. That 10-minute YouTube video could be an hour and a half to 10 hours of filming. You never know, and it's edited down so nice and neat. I'm sure some of Bill's videos, the 10-15 minute prop shop ones, they're probably an hour or two long, if not longer, because if he's casting something and it's not a fast cast resin or silicone, he's got to wait, right? So it's one of those things, and it's interesting.
Video content especially is because if I could, I'd quit my day job tomorrow and just make tutorials and videos. I mean, I love making the videos. They take a lot of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I still, and for those that are watching or maybe watch this later and they're wondering where my Epsilon Part 2 video is, it's coming eventually, I promise.
It's somewhere on that desk over there, I think, in the back.
I haven't even shot it yet. So.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, I haven't forgotten about it. I think I put part 1 up like 2 months ago. So.
Yeah, because I remember one thing about a lot of people when it came to Epsilon. You were one of the main people that I knew were really gung ho about Epsilon. Some people have mixed reviews. Either they don't know how to use it properly, or I've seen in forums, some people are like, avoid this stuff like a plague, and it's like, I've used it. I don't mind it for the applications I use, but I don't quite often I don't use a lot of foam right now because I have too many things I still need to finish printing. I got to get some of the armor going as it is, but when it comes to the greebly bits and stuff of armor, I like to print them and model them or sculpt them and then cast them And then I'll make the base out of foam if I can. I have a giant roll right now in my basement of L200 I want to just get at, especially for my new cosplay that I announced the other day. That's been like a long time coming. I've been wanting to do it for a long time, but my skills weren't where I would be happy with the final result. And now I've learned so much more.
Remind me of what that one is again.
The Ratchet and Clank one.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the full head everything. There's
Oh wow.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that's really cool about it. I recently got the actual game for PS4, excited about the movie, and literally I sat there and screenshotted the weapons, 60 different angles, just going, and now I have all my reference material. There's certain weapons I'm gonna make. It's literally just to make certain weapons, it's gonna take 2-3 weeks just to make them, like, because they're so detailed. But I love it. I love it, and I'm so glad.
Cool. That's cool. Really excited about it too. I was gonna say, like with the Epsilon, and whether you're 3D printing or whatever, it's like I've been doing this for a while now. I mean, not a really long time, but it really all comes down to like what your skill set is and what you can do with the material.
Exactly.
Because I have people ask me all the time. It's like Warbler or foam or XPS or Sintra or or 3D print or whatever, and I'm just like, what can you do? What's your skill set?
Yep.
Can you look at a material, look at a thing and go, I know how I can make that from this material, and that's kind of something I just push now with everybody. It's like, try different materials. Some of them are fairly inexpensive, so it doesn't cost that much to try them. And then learn your skill set of what materials you know how to use. Like my Furiosa arm, the hand portion, well, the majority of it's all made out of aluminum.
Yeah.
I've never made anything out of metal before, really. I mean, anything that detailed or anything. But I used aluminum because I knew I wanted the articulation of the hand and stuff. And I honestly didn't know if foam or Warbler or something, the softer materials would hold up to the need of being able to move.
Yes, especially if you're moving your hand a lot for photo ops or anything like that. You don't want it to fall apart on you at a convention or anything. Not everyone has, the emergency med kit for their cosplays with them or wants to do
exactly.
that. And that's
exactly. So that's. Oh, go ahead.
That's a good mentality to do it, though, is try to expand your skill set, and that's a year before I had any experience with hands-on 3D printing, and my first 3D printing hands-on experience was after I bought my own printer. So it's one of those things, I jumped into it, I loved it, and I'm still learning, but I'm getting happier with the results as I go, and I want to do that more with other things. I'm hoping to get my hands on my X-Carve very soon. When I get that, then that's another thing to deal with. I've done minor CNC milling stuff in high school. We had like a old school one that was donated to the school like 10 years before I got in there, so it was probably now about 30-40 years old. Like, it was a piece of junk essentially. It broke every other deal with. I've done minor CNC milling stuff in high school. We had like a old school one that was donated to the school like 10 years before I got in there, so it was probably now about 30-40 years old. Like, it was a piece of junk essentially. It broke every other time we used it, but I had a basic understanding of how that worked, so now I could kind of apply that, and it works for other things as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might. I have kind of a similar background. I mean, compared to a lot of the people that are doing this kind of work, I'm in the older category, So
you're only 22, right?
Yeah. 23 years ago. I was really into metal shop and wood shop when I was in high school, and both my dad and my grandfather were general contractors, so I grew up building stuff and did woodworking for probably 25 years as a hobby. and mostly furniture building, some very precise type building. And so all of that skill set translated into the prop and armor and costuming world. Because when it comes down to it, the skills are very similar. It's just the materials change. And so sometimes people look at my work, they're like, wow, you've only been doing this like 3 years. I'm like, well, I've only been building this specific type of stuff for 3 years, but really I've been building since I was since I was a teenager, really, when it comes down to it. So, and I'm not the youngest guy out there, so I have some years behind that. But anything that you can do and learn to add to that skill set and learn the different materials, um, you know, they all have their pros and cons. I've yet to find the perfect material, you know. Um, I wish I could find it because then I could probably retire on it. Or the perfect coating for like foam, the perfect coating that's like completely durable, doesn't crack, and is completely smooth and doesn't take a bunch of sanding. I mean, if somebody could invent that, then they do really well in the costuming community, without a doubt.
A couple of people in the chat are wondering what's next on your plate. What are your next plans for like cosplay? Or
well, so the way my year, I have to plan in years now because I do commission work. So the way my years kind of go is our big con is Emerald City. So the first third of my year is getting ready for Emerald City, which is in Seattle. We do new costumes for the whole family for that con, and that's our costumes for the year. I don't have time to build 4 more costumes every 3 months or something crazy like that. So we do the whole family. We get a new costume in this year it was in April, or early May, and then we'll reuse those costumes throughout the year at different local cons that we go to, and then in the meantime, I have like 4 or 5 pretty large commissions built up or ready to go in the hopper that I'll work on throughout the next, the other 2/3 of the year. So for me, here on out, it's commission work, and then I won't revisit new costumes again until the beginning of next year. So
okay.
So that's kind of the way my schedule works, the way that I found to work with my family and still be able to do the family thing and do the day job thing and do the commission thing. So,
which is something we talked about earlier, being kind of a harder thing to do sometimes. You only have so many hours in a day, and you want to dedicate a little bit at least to everything. Working a full-time job plus commissions plus family, it adds up.
Yeah, it does. And I have a very patient wife. A lot of wives probably wouldn't want their husband stuck in their little workshop, as long as I am, especially for that first 3 months of the year when we're getting ready for Emerald City.
Yeah.
I try to space my commission work out to where I have like chunks of time in between so we can, do things as a family, but then I got to hunker down and I'll be in my workshop for like a month straight, and they're not going to see me unless they come down to my workshop and talk to me, So I have a very patient wife in that regard, and I wouldn't be able to do like the daytime job and then the prop job without that patience. So I'm very, very thankful for that understanding, because she understands that, it's like I'm a creator. I always have been, and I'm not happy unless I'm making something. It's just all artists have their thing, and that's just kind of the thing I have that drive to create. So that's where that's at. That being said, to answer that question specifically, my next project is a sword from the game. Let's see, now I just forgot what it's called.
Because that actually segues well into the next question, because I was going to ask you if you could discuss any of the commissions that you had, and Nimi asked that in the chat as well. If you were able to share with us what you've been commissioned to do, because I remember last year you had a couple things for Vert Vixen and that like Master Nova rifle. You had the rocket launcher, Farah's rocket launcher, stuff like that. Like that was some really cool stuff.
Yeah, those are some pretty fun things. So I don't right now, although I don't, all the ones I'm doing are for private buyers. So
Yeah.
I'm not under NDA for any of those. There is one possibility NDA coming up that I'm really excited about. So I hope it goes through because it'll be pretty awesome. But the ones I have for private buyers, the one I'm working on, I actually was working on it today. The blueprinting line drawing for it is it's a there's a game called Fire Emblem. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've ever heard of
Oh
it.
yeah. I've played a
Yeah,
lot
so
of them.
okay, so I'm not much of a gamer, so it's like it's all Greek to me. But the character Corin, he has a sword that I'm going to be doing his sword next. So
Okay.
um, I think it's a he, maybe it's a she. I'm not sure.
If
But
it's
it's
from the
specific.
newer one, I'm not sure. If it's from an older one and it's one of those hard to find characters, I might not know either, or just I'm getting old and I'm
Yeah,
forgetting.
I mean, if you Google Corin Fire Emblem, it's like the first sword that comes up. It's like on fire. So I mean, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
It's not going to be on fire, but it's actually a version that's in the the newest Super Smash game on Wii U.
Oh, okay.
So, which is a little different than the in-game one, I guess. So, but that's going to preoccupy me for the next about month. I have only about a month to build it, so it's pretty detailed. I'll probably do a lot of sculpting on it. I've been trying to do more sculpting with things because the more sculpting I do, the more I like it. I found that like something about sculpting really appeals to me. So that's where I'm at for my first commission that's going to be out the gate here this month. So I'll probably start posting work in progress stuff on that soon.
Nice.
Because I got to get my butt going on it. So.
What kind of clay do you like using to sculpt there? Like...
I haven't really done much clay sculpting. I've mostly just used epoxy sculpt at this point.
Oh, okay.
And I like epoxy sculpt for one reason only. Well, there's several reasons I like epoxy sculpt, but the biggest reason is I can fix all my terrible sculpting by sanding it.
Yeah. Sanding epoxy sculpt is a beautiful thing. It's I like doing small details with it sometimes. Even if on some of my helmets for my 3D printed stuff, if there's little fine details that I think might get lost or more difficult to handle finishing a 3D print of, that area will be designed smooth, and then what will happen is I'll add the epoxy sculpt after. So that way it makes it a little bit easier because it's so much faster to epoxy sculpt a design into something than it is to deal with pulling out support material and getting rid of sanding for the print lines or filling anything that end up kind of getting a little wonky. And that's the thing. It's again knowing your skill set and kind of using it to your advantage.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I would say that I almost always use epoxy sculpt on something. It's really really versatile. And after the first time I used it a couple years ago, I was like, wow, I want to build everything out of this stuff. So,
yeah,
and you can't really use it for everything, but there are just certain things that it's like, wow, I can just knock this out in epoxy sculpt.
Yeah.
And again, since it cures rock hard, it's like I can utilize my skill set of sanding to kind of fix things if they don't look quite right. So because again, I don't have a background in sculpting, so my sculpting is still kind of rudimentary, but I can really clean that up with epoxy sculpt. So
yeah,
if I ever dive into clay, I'll probably start with monster clay because
I was gonna say I'd recommend it. The usefulness of it's so nice, and especially if you do need to smooth out any details or anything, hit it with a heat gun for a few seconds, and it's really and it's good for if you need to mold something as well. It's a lot easier to clean out. It doesn't dry out on you because it's the oil-based clay. They say it's like the new Chavant, essentially, but better.
Yeah. Because it seemed like for a long time, all I ever heard about was Chavant.
Yeah.
And then lately, the past like year and a half or so, it seems like anytime somebody's sculpting something,
it's monster clay
on the RPF or whatever, or people that I follow, it's always monster clay. So.
Well, you get like a 5-pound tub of it for like I think in the States it's like $30 for it or something like that. For a 5-pound tub, And for that, the cool thing about that too is the tub itself, you can actually put it in the oven or the microwave. It's meant to withstand heat. So you can actually just
Oh, really? I didn't
yeah,
realize that.
yeah, you could once you're done scraping it off whatever you made, you can just throw it back in, melt it back down, and it's perfectly smooth again, and then you're good to go for the next batch. It's amazing, and especially now with the idea that they just created the three variants of it, so you actually have different like toughness. So there's soft, there's normal, and then there's hard. So you can actually, if you need like really smooth details and you want to work with it, and it's not it's a little too hard, you can get the softer stuff and it would work a lot nicer. But the cool thing about that too is it I find when you're working it with your hands, it does spread really nicely from the warmth of your touch even. It actually will spread really nicely. We actually have a couple other questions here for you involving conventions, since you mentioned conventions. Um, Modulus Props wants to know what other regional cons you like to go to, and Cruiser81 wants to know if you're going to be making it to Rose City in September.
So for the Seattle area, I usually do, try to make it to all the larger Seattle cons. So we do Emerald City. I should be at PAX towards the end of the year. I usually do a panel at PAX, so I can get into that pretty easy because you get a pass when you do a panel. So and then we like, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because PAX is like it sells out so quick, you know. Um, and then really like Rose City a lot. I may even enjoy Rose City a little more than Emerald City because Rose City is like the size Emerald City was about 6 years ago. So so it's like there's a lot of people, but it's not completely jam packed, and you don't feel like you're just getting ran over the whole time. But this year, unfortunately, I've had a schedule change at my day job, and I'm probably not going to be at Rose City. So,
Ah,
and
that sucks.
I'm really bummed about that because that's pretty much my favorite Northwest Con right now. So, I am also up for promotion at the same time. So it's possible that if I get the promotion